Welcome back to episode 2 of our series looking at ancient texts to get wisdom. I'm going to be keeping this short but impactful because so many people right now are battling with an overload of so much information, so much expectation. For many people, they also have to be homeschooling children and working a full day and trying to find a time to be off. So I hear you, I see you, and I'm going to try and make this meaningful for you. So keep following me and I've got your back. For these videos today, I will be using a different translation than the one that I used before. The previous one that I used was the NIV, New International Version, but for this one I'm going to use an adaptation called The Message. The Message uses plain language that is quite meaningful for this generation, and it'll just make a little bit more sense. In the previous episode, we looked at the importance of you as a leader not seeing yourself as God, but allowing God or your creator to actually lead and show the right way and what is wisdom. In the Message, the verse reads as follows: Start with God. The first step in learning is bowing down to God. Only fools thumb their noses at such wisdom and learning. Doesn't that make more sense than what we read yesterday? Can you think of a leader who has a God-like complex and becomes quite destructive because of that? I can think of a few. Can you see why it is important for us as leaders to humble ourselves and to know that we are here for a purpose that is greater than ourselves, because we are all like dust and we all disappear. So what is your purpose? What is it that you've been created for? In the series, we are not necessarily going to be working on the book of Proverbs chronologically, but for today, we are following on from that verse 7 that I've just read. So today we're going to be looking at verse 8 and 9, and it says, Pay close attention, friend, to what your father tells you. Never forget what you learnt at your mother's knee. Wear the counsel like flowers in your hair and like rings on your fingers. What an amazing image that is. But what does it mean? What does it mean? There is something called generational wisdom that is handed down through culture, through families, through communities. Our parents are not perfect, just as we are not perfect when we're bringing up our children. But we still want them to learn from mistakes. Perhaps you didn't have a parent who taught you wisdom. Perhaps you are not sure of what that looks like. You know, Rick Warren is a pastor. You might have heard of him from Saddleback. He wrote Purpose-Driven Life. And he has said that God did not choose your parents because of their parenting skills, but because of their DNA, which made you perfectly you, that fulfills the purpose that you have for this generation in this world right now. And that's a marvelous viewpoint to look at and to consider. I know what a privilege it is to pass down information for my wisdom for my children. I don't want them to start from the beginning. I want them to learn from the mistakes that I made so that they can step forward further than I am. But maybe you didn't have a biological parent that did this. It doesn't have to be a biological parent. We have mentors who do the same thing. Who were your mentors? When you consider your leadership, you are part of a collective wisdom. You were not born in a machine or from a machine. Perhaps you were raised in a rural setting and now you are in the wealthiest part of town. But that does not mean that those gems of wisdom are not relevant and applicable. It just means they need to be adapted. Don't let go of the gems that you were given on your mother's knee or what your father handed down to you. I live in Africa and I love the African fables. There is such depth and knowledge in those few words that you can use in any part of life. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You are made of many parts. Each one gives you depth and complexity, and you have been given mentors along your journey of life who are like a mother and father. And this wisdom that they have given you applies to this proverb. So proudly take it, accept it, and wear it like flowers in your hair and rings on your fingers. And pass it on to your children and to your team and to the other leaders around you who you want to develop. Lead well, lead in wisdom, and I will see you next time.